But I'm not really sure giving a number is the best way to do that, or a level.
That's good. I've gone to pretty much a standards-based grading for everything this year. I was doing the past couple of years kind of a combo traditional and standards-based. I was teaching more standards-based lessons, but having to grade regular. I didn't make the full switch until this year. But the trick for me at the high school level, I'm sure you too, David, I don't know what your school requires, but I still have to give an ABCD fail grade. And so I've found a formula that I like to translate the standards-based grades to an ABC grade. It's not perfect, but it kind of works. But again, I still kind of have the same problem that you have, Matthew, that the parents just see an A, even though they may have only like a 2 on the rubric or for that standard. They just see the A. Oh, they don't need to work on anything because they still have an A.
Yeah, for us, we have directed in our school, our entire grade book. We do use a traditional grade book. Which I don't like, because if you're truly going to go standards-based, you really need a standards-based grade book in order to do it successfully. And there's a bunch of them out there that as a school we are actually looking into switching to, but we're not there yet. In terms of how we do it right now, every standard that we teach gets assessed. If we're going to teach it, and there needs to be an assessment attached to it. This is regardless if it's just PE, it's across the board. It's every class, every discipline in the entire school. With that being said, so every standard goes in the grade book. Every standard is graded on a 1, 2, 3, 4 scale. Mastery is a 4, proficiency is a 3. We call it either emerging, approaching, or needs a little bit of help is a 2. And if they're not meeting standards, then they get a 1. We don't have a 0. So that's in essence what our thing is. And the way our grade book grades it right now is that it just averages out all those grades. It takes, if you got standard 1.1, you got a 4, great, that's a 4. Standard 1.2, if you got a 2, if those were the only 2 grades in your grade book, you would average it out, and then you would have a B in the class because that's a 3. And so I was like, okay, I don't like it. It's the system we have though. And because we have direction from on high at our district level that basically says, this is what we have, this is what you're going to do. Until we come up with a better way, this is the system that we have, and this is the system you have to use. So I'm like, okay, I get that, but I'm actively trying to find better ways of doing standards-based grading. So I am working a lot on that at my school.
Yeah, that sounds about how I created my grade book as well, because mine's the exact same way. Had the students' names down the side, the assignments with the standard up on the top, and then it's a 4, 3, 2, 1 scale, just like what you were talking about. And then I had a formula, a VLOOKUP formula, that goes out and picks the grade depending on what the average number is. Yeah. So is it different for you, Matthew, being at the elementary level? Do you have a standards-based report card that you can actually fill out?
We don't really have a standards-based report card at my school. We have had some very early discussions about standards-based report cards. The problem is that with education, sometimes it's slow moving. I'm willing to kind of make that jump pretty quickly and would do it in a heartbeat if I had a chance. We have a traditional grade book that we have to fill out, and we're supposed to have so many assignments in each section of our grade book. That's resulted in some issues over the years, especially in the last couple. I've had to basically convert kind of your idea of your scales. 100% is considered, well, I do proficient for my 100, and then 88 is like maybe a 3 out of a 4, and kind of doing that because of just that discussion with admin. And there is that belief that PE, you can't really challenge kids too much, and that need to be able to get an A pretty easily, and all the things that we have to deal with, which is very discouraging to say the least. It's exciting to hear that, David, you had a really good year with your grades. I had a really bad one, not this year, but the year before. And a lot of it came down to students who just didn't want to put the time and effort in. And it came back to be, well, why are you assigning such difficult assignments for them? So it just kind of, okay. So just moving forward and, trying to figure out what's best. And, I think that having some kind of written narrative of what they need to work on is really cool. But even in my grade book, I only have 1,700 characters that I have to fit into. And that seems like a lot, but when you really want to get detailed with students, people who are struggling, it's not a lot.
Yeah. Right.
I've kind of adopted, as far as determining whether they have an A, B, C, or whatever. I learned from Rick Wormelli. I think that's how you say his last name. But he brought up the point that in traditional grading that you have a 90, 80, 70, 60 scale. Why is it that the F is so big? So if you get a 0 on an assignment and you can't make it up, you're trying to dig your way out of this hole just to get to the top of F. And the others, the A, B, C, and D, are just little, very small percentages. And so what I did is since I've been using a 4-point scale all year long, is I made each grade an equal segment. So like 0 to 0.79 is a fail, 0.8 to 1.59 is a D, all the way up to 4. And it's helped my students with my grades. I didn't have near as many fails as I normally have. And I think it's more fair that way too.
And do you have the same problem with your students that trying to justify that my student got a B and they think it's a horrible thing? Whereas I kind of look at it as, well, they worked really hard for that B. That's a really good grade for them. Do you have that problem too in your classes?
The only problem I have is the kids who always get A's expect to get A's, and it's still the same old thing though. Oh, it's just PE. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, no, there's the educational side to it, and that's what they're not understanding. And they, like, whenever I assign a classwork or a homework or a project, or we do a peer assessment, whatever it might be, they're like, why do we have to do all this? We're just supposed to be active. And so, and I get that from the parents as well. So it's just PE. So yeah, I'm still trying to overcome it, and I've come up with some ideas that I'm going to do for next year to hopefully overcome those next year. So when the parents talk to me, I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to make a video about it that I put on my student website to explain it, and hopefully that will overcome some of the objections.
One of the things that I did this in the middle of the year, I actually had a former student come and visit me, and got to talking about how hard PE was for him last year. This was a 10th grader. I teach 9th grade PE, and I had just finished printing out all of the standards K through 10, or high school course 2, excuse me, and I had put it up on the wall, and I was working on coordinating, like, okay, which standard at the high school level does it fall into or build up from in the lower grades? And so I had it up on my wall, and he said, why was PE so hard last year? And I pointed to my wall, which had all the standards up, and it took up a good chunk of my wall because, 10, 11 grade levels sitting on the wall there. I go, because this is what you were supposed to know before you got to me in 9th grade. And he went over and he started looking at all the things. He's like, wait, I was supposed to know how to do that? I go, yes. And how about that? I go, yep. And wait, but I don't know how to jump rope, and I'm supposed to know how to do that in 4th grade? I go, yes, you are. And so he goes, well, and then he actually got pissed off. He said, well, why didn't any of my elementary school and middle school teachers teach me any of this stuff? I go, because I don't know why. They just didn't. And so it made everything we're doing in class, I was to you that much more difficult. You couldn't do all these other pieces that you were supposed to have before. So I'm thinking, at least for yourself, Eric, and myself, something that we need to talk to our freshmen about is, what is it that they are supposed to have known before they got to us. And so that way we can start and tell them, I know that you are not where you're supposed to be, and that's okay. I know your PE teachers in the past haven't done what they're supposed to do, and that's okay, because we're going to work from where you are and bring you to where we need you to be. So I think that's a really powerful thing. That's something I'm going to incorporate into my beginning of the procedures, and have them understand that it's not that PE is hard. It's not that physical education is hard. It's that you have, just like when you get to college and you understand you're in remedial math, remedial English, it's the same thing. You're in remedial physical education right now. You haven't learned how to walk, skip, jump, hop, leap, gallop, all that stuff. And so, you need to work at it, and that's okay.
What?
And then also the whole standards-based grading helps with that too. It forces them to understand, look, you are not at a proficient level yet. You just kind of need to work your way up, and it's okay, and they, once they get that, they are much more willing to work at it than before. I just suck at it and I don't know how to do it. And it's like, well,
yeah, that's a
go ahead
discussion that I've had with especially my 7th graders. Is I get, why are you so hard on us? Why is it that you make us do X, Y, and Z when I can see other teachers not doing that? And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm supposed to teach you in 7th grade, and my job is to get you prepared for 8th grade. And I want you to have an easy time in 8th grade because you've been prepared for 7th grade. And that's a conversation that some of my kids get and some of them they don't get, which is kind of hard. But I like your idea of printing them out. If you have a copy of them, David, I'd love to see what you did, of how you organized it, just so that it makes it easier for the students to see.
Yeah. I think I took a picture of it. Let me see if I did. If I did, I'll share it out on Twitter so that you can see it too.
Okay, let's transition a little bit. How do we get our teachers at our schools who are not standards-based lessons or grading? How do we get them to transition so that they are?
So I might piss both of you off right now because of this. I'm at a new school, relatively new. We're going to be starting our 3rd year, and so all of the teachers at our school were either 1st or 2nd year teachers when they started with us, and so for them, they don't know any other system other than standard-based grading. So for us, the transition has been fairly simple. We have some hiccups where, due to standards-based, we do allow for reassessments and things like that. We're looking at how to change our reassessment model, because the way it's working right now, we just have kids don't do anything until the last week of the semester and say, hey, I haven't done anything for 19 weeks. What can I do right now to bring myself up to an A? And it's like, yeah, no, we're going to have to address that. But other than that, our teachers have an understanding of it. They may not agree with it, because a lot of them did grow up with the traditional track of 90, 80, 60, 70, 50, anything below 60% is an F, which we, as an educator and someone who's been teaching for close to 10 years, I don't agree with, because like you said earlier, Eric, digging up from a 0 just to get to the top of the F, that's cruel and unusual punishment. And so, for me, our teachers, I don't have to worry too much about our teachers. How about you guys?
I know for me, I've got 2 people that I work with, but sorry, I had to laugh. I just saw Kari's comment. The 2 that I work with are actually really good learners, and they know a lot. And one is applying what they know pretty well, and the other one knows a lot but isn't applying very well. So I've been having lots of good discussions, and I think I'm making progress with them to become more on board with standards-based grading. It's just making that transition, because it's hard work, and it's the old traditional styles is easy.
Yeah, I think
Yep. Yeah.
I think the hard part is to try
go
to
ahead.
make it easy for people, and it might not be. And I'm going to throw the horrible comment out there of is if you have somebody that's struggling with change and trying to go in a new path, is standards-based grading the best thing for the students, or should it be trying to focus on their teaching? Those are totally different subjects, probably for another day. But I wonder if it's good just to kind of have one of you go ahead and do it this year, or the coming year, I should say, because we're all done at this point, and then try to show them what you're doing and get them ready for the following year.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Kari.
Yes.
Yeah. You do not look that horrible. I don't know what you were talking about.
Well, thanks. Okay, keep going.
Is there anything you want to add?
Okay, what was the question? How do you get your your coworkers on board?
Right.
Yeah. How do you get coworkers on board?
Well, with my coworkers, I just kind of said this is what we're doing, and other departments. Our science department is standards based. Our English department is starting to become standards based. So it's just kind of a trend in our school. Science started it, then we went, and then now English is kind of getting there. And I just kind of laid it all out of these are the reasons why we should be doing standards based. And I think they also knew that I wasn't going to give up on it, so they just said, "All right, we're doing it."
Nice.
What were
I
some
will
of the,
say,
what were some of the reasons you gave them?
well, I mean, I think the biggest thing was, not grading on dress. We did a lot of assessment. We collected a lot of data already. So we were doing a good job. It was kind of an easy transition for us. So I don't know. I mean, I did start sending them all the resources throughout the summer, and kind of an email every other day with different resources in it about standards-based grading and the reasons to do it. I would say now that you need to start with standards-based instruction before you decide to jump to standards-based grading. We kind of did it a little bit differently, and we just went into the grading aspect, started writing proficiency scales, and figured out, how to teach, with the end in mind, and start teaching to those standards and making sure that we were teaching to those standards. So it's really helped us become standards-based, teachers, because we were implementing the grading. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Something that's helping us is we're really good at communicating and telling each other what we're doing, and then we'll give hints and tips on how to make our lessons more standards-based. And so one thing we're going to do starting next year is to help not only with grading and things like that, but a common assessment. We are working on a claims paper together. So we're all writing about different claims. We're all going to start out with our first semester with invasion games, and we're working together this year. So we're also, instead of having course 1 for freshmen and course 2 for sophomores, we are all going to teach course 2, and which is mainly team games and tumbling, gymnastics, things like that. And then the next year we'll teach all teach course 1. So that way we can really work together and hopefully get some good lesson plans and things together, and so I can hopefully influence them a little bit more to go more standards based.
Right, and we team teach. So I should have said that in the first place. So we are all teaching the same course. We have 9th through 12th grade all at the same time. So there'll be 2 or 3 of us in the gym same time. Our school is 7-12. So 2 of them teach the 7th and 8th graders, and they are this year going to do standards-based grading. And I think it's just because they've seen, all the great things that have come out of it, it's definitely, it's harder at one aspect, but it's easier in another aspect. And so they're going to start doing that in 7th and 8th grade. But I think having us all teach the same thing, and we are all, writing those assessments together, we're making those proficiency skills together, and we have to hash it out. We sit in a room together and say, I think this and I think that, and we don't leave until we've, one of us has either given up or we've all agreed.
So what's been your hardest thing about standards-based grading for you?
For me?
Is it lesson planning? Any three of you?
I think for me, the time involved was very difficult. When you get started looking at the standards, going from the standards to what are you going to assess on the standards, and then working through your lessons and your units and how are you going to report it on them. It just takes a lot of time. I mean, there are some standards that I've been able to work through that took, 10, 15 hours of planning to get ready for one thing. And to do that for me, I was asked to do that for 9 grade levels at my school. So it was a lot of time and commitment and a lot of heartache. And, you just have to kind of take it one step at a time. And people didn't like all of them. And, it's like, well, make a better one. And it's like, well, I just don't have the time for that. So
I guess David muted himself, I think. So.
He's not muted, but his camera's not there. David, can you hear us?
He might be with family too.
Yeah, he might be saying goodnight to kids or something.
I'll say that the hardest part for me is, internet lag, he says. The hardest part for me is having that top level of, okay, or even just, figuring out what those descriptors are. So if this is proficient, what does it look like to be, ours is emerging, which would be that step 2. And then what does it look like to be above and beyond proficient? So, really just, we had to hash those things out and try to figure it out. And, coming into it, just, I think one of the ones, and David helped me a lot on this one, was trying to figure out for volleyball, what does it mean to be proficient in volleyball? And Shape America says making sure that they can play at a recreational level. So what does that mean? And, does it matter that they can serve the ball? Well, yeah, it matters. They have to serve the ball, but it probably doesn't matter if they serve it overhand. Does it matter if they know how to spike? Mm-hmm. Probably not. But they should be able to, volley the ball. They should be able to bump and set, and, just starting to figure out what does it really mean, and, what would it be if they were above proficient, those type of things. Before, like I said, we were good with assessments, but, we had these skills evaluations where if you got them all right, that was 100%. So now mine were always on a 16 points scale. It wasn't a scale, but 16 points. And so now it's kind of, if they get that 12 out of 16, which is 80%, that's proficient. So in freestyle, if they can, swim pretty good with their arms, have good kick, but they probably don't have to do the, rotational breathing. Those, breathing to the side. They probably don't have to have that to be a proficient swimmer. And those are the type of things that just trying to figure out what does proficient look like, and why are we the ones saying what proficient looks like? We wanted somebody else to, we want some researcher out there to tell us what proficient looks like, but it's not there. It's us.
Right. Oh, you look more clear, David.
Oh. That was cool.
So
I found that with rubrics that it's sometimes you kind of give the benefit of the doubt to the student, and you're like, well, are they this or that? And you're kind of watching, and if you have enough things that you're looking at, it becomes pretty clear where they stand with the assessment tool.
So I'm seeing young Bassett over here putting up some numbers, and I've never seen that before, but it's a breakdown for the 1, 2, 3 and the
I'm
percentages.
assuming those aren't percentages that are going in the grade book like that, as far as one being a 33%, but I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, I don't
He
know.
says he's thinking about revising.
Because your 2 being proficient, you wouldn't want that to be a 67%.
Right. So I'm glad he put that up there, because that was part of my next question. Is I've always been taught that 3 on a 4-point scale is proficient. Why wouldn't the 3 be the A? Why do they have to exceed that 3 to get the A?
Well, can you guys hear me? Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Personally, I think that part of the things that we have with grades is that they're with a 100-point scale or a 4, 3, 2, 1, that there seems to be a level of where I'm done learning. What I think of is when you start thinking of getting rid of grades and even the 4, 3, 2, 1 scale, but you're still teaching learning, but what is it that you're struggling with? What do you need to challenge yourself on? There's always something that you can do more. That's kind of where I like the concept behind solo taxonomy a lot. It's not just you have to learn these 4 things. For some of us, 4 things is all we're going to get to because that's where we are. But there are those athletes and there's those students in our classes that those 4 things, they've mastered that when they were in 3rd grade. And that's where solo taxonomy, like there's 10, 20, 30 things, whatever you want to do. I started out with teaching Tinkling in 7th grade many years ago, and I think I taught them like 3 things the first year. Last year, I think I was up to 10. And the more that I learn about it and the more I see the students, they can then, hey, now that you've mastered these things, here's another thing. Okay, and when you're done with that, here's another thing. When you're done with that. So it kind of shows that learning is an ongoing process and that you're not ever finished with it. I have students that come up to me all the time that say, I can't do basketball, football, or baseball because I'm really good at it already and I don't need to practice anymore. And then I kind of talk to them about what the story behind Kobe Bryant, and the guy takes 10,000 jump shots a day, not because he's not any good, but because he wants to stay at the top of his game and practice and get better at it. So that's for me, like why we would have some kind of thing. And that's where all grading kind of messes up, in my opinion, is people get to that complacency. Well, I'm great at this. I don't need to improve anymore. Unless you're the best in the world, you do need to improve. And even if you're at the best in the world, to stay there is very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So then, should our scale be different for people who are advanced and people who are less advanced, or should it be the same standard for everybody?
I think you got to make sure that you are really looking at it as standards-based grading, that you're not looking at it. I mean, it's hard to differentiate the two, but you're trying to look at it through a traditional grading point of view, if that makes sense, that it should be, this is the standard. To go above and beyond that standard is great, and that should be advanced. And I think Matthew is right that you need to have that. You need to have that differentiation for your students. You need to have that there's always something that you can achieve and go above and beyond. In your job, if you just are proficient, you do everything that you're asked of, but you never go above and beyond that, then you're not going to get the raise. You're not going to advance because you're not going above and beyond. You're just, being complacent and you're doing exactly what you're told. I think we need to teach our children to make sure that they, achieve higher and go above and beyond that standard. I think some people that don't think we need the advanced just think that we can have other outcomes for them to achieve. So once they've hit that outcome, then you give them another outcome to try to achieve. But I'm not sure how realistic that is in my classroom, at least, to be able to have all these different outcomes going on, especially at the high school level. They're all kind of different and, crazy different aspects. So there has to be some differentiation there, and there has to be that level of you can always improve. You're not, just like Matthew said, you're not going to be the best. And your standards-based grading should just be showing them where they're at, showing the parents, showing the student, showing other teachers when they move on from your classroom. It's not supposed to be, a level of an A, B, C, or a D. It's supposed to be, this is where I was at the beginning. Now this is where I'm at the end.
Yeah. And I brought that up to staff, my principal, and something that is always thrown back at me from admin and higher ups and things like that is that it's all well and great. We want to be developmental. We want to make sure that we're reaching the kids where they are. We're showing their growth. We're showing what they've been able to achieve. But ultimately, at the high school level, we have to give them a grade, because when they go to college, when they're applying to college, that's what they need to turn in. They need to turn in transcripts with letter grades on it. So regardless of whatever we do in the class, we still need to translate that into an A, a B, a C, a D, and an F. At our school, we actually took out the D. We don't even have Ds in our school. I can't give them a D at all. So they either are failing, they're getting a C, they're getting a B, or getting an A. For kids who ask me, it's like, why don't I have an A in my class? Because I think I had maybe 2 A's in the entire school. Sounds rough, but here's my rationale. We grade on a 4-point scale, 4 being mastery, 3 being proficient. With the 3 being proficient, that's you showing me that you can do whatever it is the state says that you should be able to do, right? If it's combining and applying various movement patterns, whatever it is, you're showing me that you can do that at the level that is appropriate for your age. Now, an A, I've always been taught, is exemplary. You're going above and beyond whatever it is. When I was growing up, we had the A through F scale. C meant that you were meeting minimum requirements. That's a C, meeting minimum requirements. In order for you to go A, you were exceeding the requirements. So for me, I look at it, if the 3 is meeting the standard and showing proficiency, you need to be exceeding that if you want to be getting an A. And to be quite honest, none of my kids exceed the standard. They see what the standard is, they see what they need to do, and they do that. And that's all they want to do. I do have some kids who try and push and go above and beyond, but they don't have the skill in order to do it. They, like I was saying earlier, they just come in so deficient in terms of their physical literacy and their physical ability, and even in their knowledge, that it's a daunting task to try to achieve that and overcome all of the things that they've had deficient from kindergarten through through 9th or through 8th grade. So that it kind of bums me out when I can't give an A, but I tell them all the time, it's not what I'm giving you, it's what you're earning. Unfortunately, you're earning a B. I'm sorry.
I find like at my school that if I give them a B, I have parents and administration that comes back and goes, "Oh my gosh, it needs to be easier than that." It's just, I don't know if there's a grade inflation thing going on, or if it's just the traditional, it's PE, if you show up, you should get an A. So
I think one of the things, at least for you, Matt, is you might have to have a conversation with either the admin or admin and parents and show them, like, these are the standards that I have to teach. You'll see that there's no dressing, there's no showing up, there's none of that. And I can't remember the middle school standards or the elementary school standards, but I think the closest standard to just participation is being, 4 days a week, moderate to vigorous physical activity.
Right.
Yeah. That's one standard out of however many we have. And at the lower grade levels you go, the more standards that you need to teach. In high school, we're like this much. That's how many standards we got. And you look at elementary school, it's like, I can't even.
I had some kindergarten that's like 30 standards.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I do have to say they are very minutia though. It's like jump long rope with partners, jump long rope by yourself, and things like that. But it's still it's a different thing, a different task that they need to be able to demonstrate. So that might be something that you need to do. That's something I have to do every single year, because every single year they come in, for 5 weeks, I have like half the school failing PE. And they're like, why is my child failing? Are you not dressing? I go, I don't care if you dress. You can show up dressed every single day. If you sit on your butt and do nothing, you're still going to fail my class. Oh, well, what if I don't dress and I do everything that you ask and I'm proficient? Then you're going to pass my class. I don't care if you dress. I do not care. As long as your clothes don't impede you. I always ask my kids, it's like, oh, I can't do this. Is it because your pants are too tight? Is it because your pants are too low? Is it because you're afraid to lift your arms up because your shirt's going to show your belly? Then that means your clothing is impeding your performance. So your grade is not going to reflect what you want it to be. Then all of a sudden, like that, they're all dressed the next day. It's all about expectations. You're kind of quiet over there, Eric.
I know. I'm just listening, taking it all in. These are all good because I've been having these same exact discussions with the people at my school, and I'm just glad that there's other people out there who are teaching and preaching the same thing that I am. So I know I'm not alone out there.
Let's just get us all together in one school. Imagine the program we could have if all of us just got together in one school.
Sign me up.
Oh, my screen froze.
So I want to change topics, but not change topics. Because I have a friend who grades on whether the student is in class or not in class. So if they're absent, they miss points, and but they have a chance to make them up if they come back and they can make those points up.
Do they make them? Do they make them run laps after school to make up the points?
No, they go to the weight. The way they do their makeup is since we're on a block schedule, so we only see them 3 times a week, and so in order to make up a 1 day of a block schedule, they have them go to the weight room during lunch twice to make up 1 period. And so they work out for basically 15 to 20 minutes to make up what they've missed in class.
So they're making...
Yeah, I'm not sure that's legal because you're taking away lunchtime. I don't know.
They're not learning what they missed in class.
Yeah, it's physical activity more than
that's a whole other.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
say. I usually just talk with my students about if you've missed class, it's your responsibility to come in and make up any work, especially if, we're doing stuff that is graded like classwork or whatever. If they don't have any work to make up, they're still responsible for making sure that they can make up the time needed to become proficient at a skill, because I do have students who are absent an awful lot. And when they come back to me and say, well, why didn't I get the best grade that I could have for this assessment? It's like, well, let's look back at how you did in these classes. Oh, you missed a couple of classes this unit and you didn't use your time wisely during class time when you were here. And so it's, when you can keep track of it, it's actually pretty easy to show them their grade stuff. But
right.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't know if coming in during lunch or nutrition or whatever it is they're coming in to just be a body in the room is the same thing as actually demonstrating learning. It's like, that's just a bot. Like if you're grading whether they just show up or not, then I guess, yeah, that makes sense. But then again, going back to the whole grading thing is, are you like, if this was an English class, or if this was a science class, or if this was a history class, and they just sat in their chair, are you going to pass them? Would you pass them? And for me, my answer is always going to be no. My class is just like any other class at my school. Our physical education class is a science class. I teach it as if you are in a college level class. I just don't teach you college level material, but I teach it as a college level class. You're going to come in, and I'm going to treat you like a college student. You show up, you learn what you need to learn, I don't care if you're absent. The school cares if you're absent because it's ADA, but I don't care if you're absent. Can you demonstrate to me that you have learned the materials you need? And if you can do that, you can be absent. Honestly, I don't care if you're absent every single day and only show up on the days that I assess you. If you can demonstrate to me that you've learned what you need to learn, that's fine. And that teachers don't like it because as a teacher, we want the kids to be in the room and we want them to be active and engaged and all that stuff. But my job is to see if they can have learned and mastered the material. And if they can demonstrate that, then they're cool with me. If you need to come after school because you've missed some days or whatever it is, that's a totally different thing. That's not making up or me coming after school or coming during lunch or whatever it is. It has to be you mastering the content.
So if we're in a volleyball unit, and you're the teacher and I'm the student and you're assessing the bump, and on a day that I'm absent, I can come into you the next day I am at school and demonstrate the bump and you're good.
Yep.
If I already know it.
I mean, you just have to think of it just like any other class. So in math class, if you missed the day that they were, doing some certain sort of equation, if you can come in and show that you already know that, then you move on to the next thing. It's the same thing.
I don't understand.
Yeah, if they need to come in and they don't know it, then they need to practice that. Then they have that, time after school, before school to work on bumping outside of class time to work on that, because that's something that they miss.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm on the right page, because this is exactly what I'm telling my friends.
Do you think that
I think teachers, especially? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Do you think that your coworkers would ever do a Google Hangout or a Blab, or so they could ask questions?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
We could throw that out sometime.
Maybe you should set one up for your beginning of the year staff meeting times, when you have time to talk as a PE department. For standards-based grading, one of the 4 most experts right now is probably Wendy Jones. So, and I know that there's others out there.
I have Wendy coming to our PD at the beginning of the year.
That's awesome.
What day, David?
I invited her to the Blab tonight.
Let me find out what day it is.
I invited her to come tonight, but she's flying back from Denver to home, wherever home is.
Home is Northern California.
Yeah, I think she's in the Bay Area somewhere.
Hey, Kari, I can't remember where
I'm
you're
in
at.
Iowa.
Okay. I'm from northern Missouri, so I know that area. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, do you all have anything else you want to bring up about grading?
I think as physical education teachers, we need to learn to. So I was going to say earlier, I feel like PE teachers get in their own way sometimes. They will say that, in the example that you gave, Eric, it's like, I want the kids in the rooms because that's how they're going to learn. Okay, I get that. That makes total sense. But then you don't assess their learning. And then when you are then complaining that they don't show up, it's like, you're not checking what they're learning. Like, you want to be important, you have to do the work. You can't say that your class is important and then do the work. If you're going to do standards-based instruction, great, do standards-based instruction, put the time into it. You're going to do standards-based grading, great, do it, put the time into it. If you want kids to show up to your class, guess what? You need to show up to your class. You can't sit in the damn chair and say you're teaching class. I mean, this is our profession, and just like any other profession, we have to be professional. And I can't stand seeing a PE teacher who doesn't do their damn job, because it makes me and all of you who are doing your job and trying so hard to do a great job at it look horrible. I mean, I feel like social media has opened the eyes of so many other educators out there as to what we do, because we do have so many great phys ed people that are all over social media. and we're in Fox or we're on Twitter. And honestly, I feel like anyway, I don't know, maybe I'm a little biased, but I feel like it's the PE teachers that are really pushing the envelope in terms of increasing our practice. But unfortunately, it's few and far between, and we don't have everyone in our department, in our district, in our profession who agree with us, and we need to start pushing people to do these things, because honestly, I don't want to be working with someone who sits down and does nothing. I don't want to be working with someone who tells me, oh, well, I grade because they show up with, their whatever it is that they do, and they roll out a bomb and they sit and collect a quote unquote fact check for the time that they spend because they are a teacher. It's like, no, you're not teaching. You're sitting on your ass collecting babysitting money. So if you're going to be doing that, let me get someone in there who's actually going to do service to the kids. I just, like, for example, today I just went to a graduation to a bunch of kids whom I haven't seen in many years. And they were my 6th grade class, my, 3rd year teaching. And I was at this school for 3 years. They actually found me on Facebook, on Twitter. No, not Twitter, excuse me, Instagram and all these other social media platforms. And they all said, we want you to come to our graduation. You made a huge impact. I go to the graduation today with a couple of other colleagues who don't work there anymore. And we got a shout out from our, various speeches from all the kids who were speaking. And it was an honor to be their teachers for such a short time. But it shows also the impact that I had and all the other teachers had as well on these students, and what a good teacher can do for these kids. I mean, I have kids going to USC, UCLA, Yale, and this and that. So I'm very proud of Cloud9 because of all these kids. But that's how I feel we as physical educators need to be. We need to go out there and we need to make sure that everyone out there sees the great work that we're doing. And honestly, the people who aren't doing great work, either, get out of the way or fix what you got to do, because you're giving yourself a bad name, not just us.
So Eric,
okay, I'm off my soapbox.
Eric, did I miss? Do you guys have to do standards-based grading, or are you just trying to get your department to do standards-based grading?
I'm trying to get my department to do standards-based grading. I've got one who's pretty much on board, and it's kind of surprising because she's really close to retirement. And so I've worked with people like that before, and they pretty much just do what they've been doing. But she's really a go-getter, and she's doing a really great job. And then the guy that I work with, he's super smart. He knows what he needs to be doing, but it's a struggle getting him to put everything into practice.
Okay. I think if they are grading on dressing, the one thing with not having to grade on dressing, that is one less thing that they have to do. I definitely think that that's a perk of standards-based grading. That you don't have to keep track of their dress anymore. Just like David was saying, who cares what they're wearing as long as it's safe and it doesn't impede their, as long as you can do yoga in what you're doing, or swim in what you're doing, or, whatever the activity is. So being able, first of all, it's a hard thing to let go, but being able to let that go and not have to deal with that, and not have that I don't know, administration type attitude, walking into the gym and making sure that, you're writing down the kids that aren't dressed and this and that, that it's definitely a perk. So that might be an angle that you could take. And then the other thing, I mean, I know for us, it's just making sure that you're teaching and, and that you're assessing what you're teaching. And they just need to come at it as, these are the things that I'm teaching, and I'm going to assess my students to make sure that they have learned what I've taught them. And hopefully it'll be a wake-up call to realize that they're not teaching, or maybe that they are teaching really really well, and that their students are getting it, and they're becoming proficient in advance, and being able to see from pre-test to post, and hopefully there's just that change, and we can just get them to to try it. And like you said, having everybody teach the same course and being able to come up with those, how everybody has the same assessments, those common assessments are key. Making sure that you guys all agree. Like I said, we kind of sit down and hash out what a proficiency scale looks like. I think that's key too, because, even though I think I have all the right answers, I don't always have the right answers. And, we will hash that out. And, like I said, one of us will either give up or we'll compromise, or, we will figure it out. And, if you have that same class like we do, it's much easier, and it's much easier on the students because they don't, they're not saying, well, so-and-so isn't grading me on this and so-and-so isn't grading me on this. And then the other thing, parents like it a lot more because you don't have to come in and make up the hours that you missed, or, those type of things, especially if they're missing for legitimate reasons. And hopefully, your teachers will enjoy that extra time of not having to be there for makeup time. And, I think that there's a lot of perks to standards-based grading on the teacher end of it, as well as obviously the student and parent end of it.
Right. I have got them to quit grading on dress, so that's a plus. They for the academic grade, anyways. They still put it in the work habits grade,
That's okay.
which I'm kind of okay with.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then just getting them to everything that they teach, I really believe is standards based. I think their lessons are standards based, but getting them to grade standards based now is the next step. And so that's the hard part, because that's when it gets a little bit harder for the teacher. There's a little more work to it. You have to create your rubrics. You have to do all that back end stuff that just makes your work a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm. Start small, and start with that first unit, and it gets much easier to kind of figure out how those proficiency scales and rubrics go the more that you do it. But if you guys can do it together and do one, that's much easier. I do think too, what's hard for us too is figuring out those like power standards or outcomes, and in our case figuring out those essential need to know things, and figuring out what by the end of graduation, what can my students not leave here not knowing, and figuring those out. And we still don't have it completely down pat, but hopefully we can all work together too to try to figure those out. And it's going to be a little bit different from school to school, but as far as a collective physical education world, we should be able to figure those out.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm really jealous of you, Kari, that you have a group that's willing to sit in a room together and come up with a common solution.
We have to.
Yeah. I think that's really cool, because
I don't think it would.
that's really hard to do in many other situations. So
I don't know if we would find the time to do it if it wasn't something that we have to do. But I also think that we all know that it's something we should be doing. And so I don't know if we would find the time outside of school for everybody and coaching to figure that out, more than just me saying, here's the proficiency scale. But we have, as a school, we have CLTs, and we have common planning periods. So once a week we have to use our prep period for those meetings.
Yeah, many years ago, I was able to finally get rid of participation points in our grading scale, and that's something that has come up the last 3 years. Again, just, I can't get the students to perform in class, and we want to bring back participation points. And it's the vindictive thing that I talked about earlier, with just trying to get, this is the only way I can get somebody to conform, is by making their grade so low that they'll start working, and it doesn't work that way anyways. So,
plus that's like a lazy man's way out, or a lazy person's way out.
Yeah.
I mean, participation points is, like you said, vindictive. It gets the kids to move inauthentically, and they become it's kind of like the English teacher giving you writing standards when they're trying to get you to write more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't work. We want them to participate more. But guess what? Make your activity more interesting, and the kids will participate. It's as simple as that. You know, it sounds easy. I know it sounds really easy, but if you have a bad lesson, and we all have them, the kids don't want to participate. And guess what? You don't get pissed off at the kids because that's on you. You don't take care of it, and you don't make it a bad lesson. You change it up. So yeah, I
lost him for a second.
Yeah.
And Kari, because I'm
he's
a
all
department
frozen.
of one. I get to talk to myself a lot, and it just looks really like my classroom. So, and oh, by the way, Matt, we are hiring my organization. So if you're looking to make a transition and willing to drive an hour, then
Yeah, from my house, that might be 2 hours.
that's true. Okay, good point.
So Eric, any questions?
We've been on. Nope. I was just going to say we've been on for about an hour, and it's been a great discussion. I thank you all for joining me for this first Blab experience.
Hey,
Thanks for having
If you all
us.
don't
yeah, thanks for getting me on here.
No problem. Hopefully we can start doing these a little more often, because it's great just to talk and flesh out ideas.
Are you going to run these through Capered Southern District, Eric?
Yeah, I'm thinking Southern District.
It's doing this for it.
This could be an interesting thing to have these conversations.
Oh, definitely. Oh, we can think about that one.
Kim's trying to get me caught up at points right now.
Yes.
I got you.
No, Kim, stop. I'm winning.
Oh man, Kim! Wow, you really like Matt.
All right. If y'all don't have anything else to say, I'm good.
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
See you on the